Welcome back to Module 3. We're still looking here at the Form W7 with our focus on the signature block. We'll jump ahead a little bit and assume that the tax return and accompanying W7s have all been completed, another volunteer has quality reviewed everything, and you've printed the return package. Remember that tax returns that include a W-7 must be paper returns. They cannot be electronically filed. Now that you have prepared all the documents, they've been quality reviewed, you've printed everything, you're going to explain to your client where and who needs to sign what. Every person on the tax return who applies for an I-10 will have their own W-7. This means that you may prepare just one tax return, but you may prepare multiple W-7s depending on how many people in the family are without a number already. Because each I-10 applicant has their own W-7, each applicant must sign their W-7. If the applicant lives in another country, this means that the W-7 will need to be mailed to them for signing. There is one exception to each applicant signing their own, which is that if the applicant is a dependent under the age of 18, they may choose to have a parent sign for them. However, only a parent may sign for a minor dependent, not a grandparent, not a sibling, not an aunt or an uncle, only a parent. And the parent is to sign the parent's signature, not the name of their child. It's not uncommon in the tax centers for a client to claim a niece or nephew living in Mexico as a dependent. And if they meet all the qualifying criteria, that's great, they can do that. But a parent of the niece or nephew must sign their W-7 unless the child can sign their own signature. If the client is unable to get a parent's signature and if the child can't sign their own name, then the client will not be able to claim that niece or nephew as a dependent. It is advisable not to date the signature until the client is ready to present their package of documents. Every applicant has to prove their identity and foreign status by providing two documents of identity. And sometimes it takes a little while for them to gather together all the required documents. So as a general rule, tell your client not to date any of the W-7s until they have their complete package together, all the documents that are required. I really like to put a check mark or highlight where the applicant is to sign, especially if this W-7 is going to need to be mailed out of the country or mailed someplace else for the applicant to sign. Also, remember on married filing joint tax returns that both spouses have to sign the tax return. If both spouses are there with you, that's great. Just go ahead and show show them where each of them needs to sign on the return. But if one spouse lives someplace else, be sure to mark or highlight on the tax return where the spouse has to sign. It's really aggravating and frustrating, I should say, for clients to spend a whole bunch of time gathering signatures and documents. Then the primary taxpayer shows up to get everything completed, only to find out that the tax return has not been signed. So please don't forget to point that out. And once again, if both spouses are not right there with you, put a little red mark, a check mark, highlight the field, something just so that there's no question about who needs to sign where. You'll notice down here at the very bottom there's a block for the acceptance agent's use. Make sure your client doesn't sign in this area. This is just another good reason to mark or highlight the correct signature line so that they don't sign in the wrong space. So just to kind of sum up, you may very well have multiple W-7s along with one tax return. And before your client leaves your desk, make sure that they know uh, each document that needs to be signed, including the tax return, who needs to sign it, and where they need to sign it.